Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Traditional Gourmet. Tonight I'm going to be sharing with you a special recipe that I developed at home with my son Paulcito. It's a pancake batter. You can use it for pancakes or waffles, either way. We have a Belgian waffle iron here. There's a funny story that goes along with it. Before we get into the recipe, I'll share that with you. So one day, my son and I, Paulcito, are making the recipe like we do every Saturday morning. And he looks up at me, he's like, Dad, I don't want to be a chef. I was like, well, Paulcito, it's important you know how to cook. He's like, yeah, but I don't want to grow up and be a chef. I was like, well, that's fine, but you do need to grow up and know how to feed yourself. That's important. So from then on out, if he gets up on time, he helps me make this recipe every weekend. So I got Paulcito here with me like I normally do when I make this recipe, but he's been a little shy tonight, so he's going to man the camera and I'll do all the cooking. So we're going to start off with just straight all-purpose flour. It's going to be 2 cups of flour. We're going to add to that half a teaspoon of salt. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then to that, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And then I like a little bit of cinnamon in mine, maybe a little more. And then we'll just mix that in. You always want to mix your dry ingredients and your wet ingredients separately, then combine everything together. So we'll set this aside. Next, you can use buttermilk, which we're going to use here today. You can use condensed milk, or evaporated milk, I should say. Condensed milk would be a little too sweet. Or regular milk, or if you wanted to, you could use almond milk. We've done that sometimes. So we're going to use 1 3/4 cups here. Going to add 2 eggs to this right there. And then we're going to add to this 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now, if you like vanilla flavor a little bit more, you can add more if you want, which I do. So let's add a little bit. The last of it. That's it. All right, so we'll mix our wet ingredients together. Now, a lot of waffle mix and pancake mix recipes call for sugar. And my theory on that is, or my thought on that is that, honestly, we get enough sugar in our diets as it is. In addition to that, if you're like most people, you're going to smother your pancakes and waffles in maple syrup anyway, so it's going to be sweet at the end of the day. All right, so we got our mix here, our wet mix. We're going to put that in with our dry mix. To this, we're going to add 4 ounces of melted butter. Now, if you prefer, you can use 4 ounces of vegetable oil, canola oil, any neutral flavor oil at that point. I prefer butter. I think it just gives it a much, much better flavor. It's more natural. So we're going to mix this together. It's important not to over-mix it because it is a cake. You do not want to overdevelop those gluten strands, and it will be much, much fluffier as a result. So that's all we're going to do with this. From this point, we let it rest in the refrigerator for half an hour, and then we can start making our pancakes or our waffles, and we'll check back then.